It's one of the most famous songs in history. You know it. Everyone knows it. It's the sound of rebellion, the sound of a new generation. It's the sound of a sneer, a curled lip, and a leg that won't stop shaking. It made a king, it defined a career, and he might have secretly hated it. The relationship between an artist and their biggest hit is complicated. It's the song that pays the bills, it's the one that gets the biggest cheer from the crowd. It's a guaranteed success every time it's played. But imagine singing the same words, the same melody night after night. For years, for decades. A song that you didn't even write. A song that, in its original form, wasn't even meant for you. A song that was tied to one of the most humiliating moments of your life. The gratitude can curdle. The love can turn to obligation. And the obligation can start to feel like a cage. To understand why he might have despised his most famous rock and roll anthem, you have to go back to the beginning. And his story isn't the beginning. The song was born before he ever touched it. It came from a different world. It was written in 1950, two by two young guys, Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller. They were teenagers, they were white kids from Los Angeles who were obsessed with rhythm and blues. They wrote songs that sounded black, they understood the language, the rhythm, the pain, and the humor. A band leader named Johnny Otis heard their stuff and liked it. He asked them to write a song for a singer he was working with. Her name was Willie Mae Thornton, but everyone called her Big Mama. She was a powerhouse. She was a big woman with a voice that could strip paint off a wall. She was pure, raw blues. Leiber and Stoller went to her rehearsal. They saw her perform. They understood who she was. They went home and wrote a song for her in about 15 minutes. They scrawled the lyrics on a paper bag. The song they wrote was for her. It was a woman's song. It was about a no-good man, of a freeloader, a man who was just a lazy, cheating dog. When she sang it, it was a threat. It was an eviction notice. Her voice was gritty and full of righteous anger. "You ain't nothing but a," she growled. You could feel the fury. It was a 12-bar blues masterpiece. It was authentic. It was real. It sold hundreds of thousands of copies and went to #1 on the R&B charts. It was Big Mama Thornton's song. It was her identity, for a while. But music travels in strange ways. The song started to get covered. Most people who covered it were in the R&B world. They understood its roots. But then it took a weird turn. It ended up in Las Vegas. A group called Freddie Bell and the Bell Boys got a hold of it. They were a lounge act. They were all about entertainment, not authenticity. They saw the song as a novelty, a joke. They changed the lyrics. They took out the anger. They took out the story of a woman kicking out a lazy man. They made it sillier, more generic. They sped it up. It became a goofy, upbeat rock and roll number. It wasn't a blues song anymore. It was a caricature, and this is where he comes in. In 1956, he was playing a string of shows in Vegas. He wasn't the king yet. He was a rising star, but Vegas wasn't his crowd. They were older. They didn't get his new sound. The shows were a flop. But while he was there, he saw Freddie Bell and the Bell Boys perform. He saw them do their version of the song, the goofy, fast, cleaned-up version. He liked it. He thought it was funny. He thought it was energetic. He decided he wanted to record it. He didn't go back to Big Mama Thornton's original. He didn't tap into the raw blues and the anger. He essentially covered the cover. He copied the Vegas lounge act's interpretation. This is the first clue. The song that would define him, the raw blast of rock and roll rebellion, was based on a parody. He took the joke and, with his incredible talent and charisma, turned it into a phenomenon. But the DNA of the song he recorded was not blues grit. It was Vegas shtick. He went into the studio in New York in July 1956. He and his band didn't love the song at first. They reportedly thought the lyrics were stupid. Why are we singing about a dog that can't catch a rabbit? It made no sense. They struggled with it. They did take after take, 31 takes in fact. He was getting frustrated, he was kicking a wall, he was determined to get it right. He knew there was something there, he poured all his energy into it, he made it snarl, he made it swing, he turned the silly lyrics into a declaration of rock and roll power. The final version was a masterpiece of performance, even if the song itself was a bit of a mess lyrically. It was a sonic explosion, it was perfect. His record label didn't even want to release it. They thought the B-side, A Beautiful Ballad, was the real hit. They were wrong. Your radio station started playing the A-side. The kids went wild. It was a sound they had never heard before. It was loud, it was defiant, it was dangerous, and it was about to get a lot more dangerous. The song became forever linked with a television performance. Not just one, but a series of them. The first was on the Milton Berle Show. He came out, guitar in hand, and sang the ballad first. Then the band kicked into the fast song, and he let loose, he swiveled his hips, he gyrated, he shook his leg. The camera stayed on him, capturing every move. He wasn't just singing the song, he was embodying it. The performance was electric. It was sexual, and for 1956 America, it was deeply shocking. The press had a field day. They called him vulgar. They called him a menace. They gave him the nickname he would carry for the rest of his life, the pelvis. His critics said he was a bad influence on teenagers. Churches preached against him. He was at the center of a cultural firestorm, and this song was the soundtrack to that storm. Publicly, he was confused by the outrage. He said he was just doing what he'd always done on stage. But now, the song wasn't just a hit. It was a symbol of everything the older generation feared. It was tied to controversy. This is when things started to get really complicated for him. The controversy was a problem for the television networks. They wanted his ratings, but they were scared of his performance. A man named Steve Allen had a popular variety show. He booked him, but he had a plan. He wanted to tame the new star. He wanted to present a new, cleaned-up version of the singer, a family-friendly version. On the night of the show, he was told he couldn't do his usual moves. He had to stand still. He was forced to wear a tuxedo. The tails, the bow tie, the whole thing. It was completely alien to his image. And then came the ultimate humiliation. Steve Allen brought in a dog, a real dog, a sad-eyed basset hound wearing a top hat. He was instructed to sing his massive #1 hit song directly to this dog. Imagine it. You are the biggest new star in the world. You have a song that is defining a generation. You are the image of Cool Rebellion, and you are standing on national television in a stuffy tuxedo serenading a dog. He was a professional, he went through with it, he tried to have some fun with it, giving the dog a little pet on the head, but if you watch the footage, you can see it in his eyes. He is embarrassed. He is mortified. He felt they were making a fool of him. They were mocking him, his music, and his fans. After the show, he was reportedly furious. He called it the most ridiculous performance of his entire career. This moment is key. From this point on, that song was not just a hit record. It was forever linked to a moment of deep, personal, and professional humiliation. Every time he heard that opening riff, every time a crowd screamed for it, a part of him must have remembered that tuxedo and that dog. The song that made him a superstar was also the song they used to try and cut him down to size. Of course he had the last laugh. The Steve Allen appearance was so controversial in its own way that Ed Sullivan, who had sworn he would never have the singer on his show, had to book him. The ratings were too big to ignore. For his first Sullivan performance, they famously filmed him only from the waist up. But it didn't matter, he was a sensation, and the song just kept getting bigger. It became a double-sided hit, with both sides of the record going to #1. It was one of the best-selling singles of all time. It cemented his status as the king of rock and roll. So he had to be grateful, right? The song gave him everything. It bought him his famous mansion. It gave him a career that would last a lifetime. He couldn't hate it. But the years went on. He went into the army. He came back and made movies. He stopped performing live for a long time. When he finally returned to the stage in 1968, he was a different man. He was more mature. He was a more sophisticated artist. He had a deep love for all kinds of music. He loved gospel, he loved soul, he loved heartfelt ballads that let him show off his incredible voice. And then there was that song, the one about the dog, the one with the silly lyrics he didn't write, based on a Vegas parody of a blues classic. The one they made him sing to an actual dog. He had to sing it. It was his most famous song. The crowd expected it. They demanded it, so he sang it. Night after night in Vegas. He is on tour for the rest of his life. If you watch his performances from the 1970s, you can see a change in how he treats the song. It's no longer the rebellious anthem of his youth. It becomes a chore, an obligation. He often rushes through it. He tosses it into a medley sandwiched between other, better songs. Sometimes he'd start it, sing a line or two, and then turn the microphone to the audience and let them sing it. He'd make a joke of it, he'd introduce it with a sigh or a roll of his eyes. His band members have talked about it. They said he got tired of it. It was a throwaway. It was just something to get the crowd going before he could move on to the music he really cared about. The music that moved him. This song, with its simple structure and nonsensical lyrics, just wasn't artistically satisfying for him anymore. He had outgrown it, but he could never escape it. It was his signature. It was his brand. It was also his prison. Think about the lyrics. You ain't never caught a rabbit, and you ain't no friend of mine. These words were powerful when sung by Big Mama Thornton to a man who had wronged her. They were nonsensical when sung by him. Who was he singing to? A dog? A person who acts like a dog? It didn't matter. The words were just sounds. They were a vehicle for the energy, the sneer, the performance. But for a man who loved lyrics, who loved storytelling and song, singing those same empty words for 20 years must have felt hollow. He respected the song's power. He knew what it did for the audience. He was the ultimate showman, and his goal was always to make the audience happy. He would never have refused to sing it. That wasn't his style. He would give the people what they wanted. But giving people what they want and loving what you do are two very different things. He loved the reaction the song got. He probably didn't love the song itself. So, did he hate it? Hate is a strong word. It's probably too simple. It's more likely he had a deeply conflicted relationship with it. He must have appreciated what it did for his career. It was the rocket that launched him into the stratosphere. He couldn't hate the fame, the money, the adoration that came with it. That song was the key that unlocked the kingdom. But he likely resented what the song represented on a personal level. He resented the lack of artistic depth. He resented that its origins were in a joke, not in the real gut-bucket blues he admired. He almost certainly resented the humiliation of the Steve Allen Show, a memory the song would have triggered every single time he performed it. And he must have resented the creative straitjacket it put him in. He was an artist capable of incredible vocal range and emotional depth, but to a huge part of the world, he would always be the guy who sang that silly song about a dog. And it was the price of fame. The biggest hit is often the one the artist grows to dislike the most. It's a snapshot of who they were at one particular moment, but artists change. As they grow, they evolve. The audience, however, often wants them to stay the same. They want the nostalgia. They want the memory of hearing that song for the first time. The artist is forced to be a living jukebox, playing a song that no longer reflects who they are. He became a caricature of himself in his later years, and that song was a central part of the caricature. The jumpsuit, the sideburns, and the song about the dog, it was a package. He was trapped inside it. He would sing it, get the cheer, and move on to something he actually wanted to sing, like a powerful gospel hymn or a heartbreaking ballad. Those were the songs where you could hear his soul. When he sang his big rock and roll hit, you could only hear his job. It's the ultimate paradox. The song that made him an icon of freedom and rebellion became his own personal prison. A golden prison, to be sure, but a prison nonetheless. He was a complex man, and his feelings about his own legacy were surely just as complex. He knew his place in history, he knew that song was a huge part of it, but knowing and liking are not the same thing. He gave the world a song that changed everything, but in private, when the applause faded, he may well have wished he'd never heard it. He might have looked back and thought about that day in Vegas when he first heard that lounge band and wished he had just walked on by. The song, of course, was Hound Dog.